You've interviewed forensic analysts, like the guy who studies serial killers in your series for IFC. You've interviewed obsessives yourselves. You've interviewed a man on death row. You interviewed Mr. Death, Fred Luchter, right, who worked with lethal injection and electric chairs. Where does Donald Rumsfeld fall in all of your interview subjects?
Well, I've had a diverse collection of people over the years.
Absolutely.
I like people that are really, I can't quite say socially unacceptable, because there's nothing socially unacceptable about Donald Rumsfeld. Pariahs. Certainly Donald Rumsfeld isn't hated by everybody, but he is hated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the movie, as a result, inevitably it becomes incredibly controversial.
Mm-hmm. You didn't set out to make anything controversial, though? You had to have known a little bit that it would be, that he's a controversial figure and the movie could be controversial.
No, I don't want to be disingenuous. You seem like a nice guy. No, I knew it would be controversial. Who's fooling whom? But I hope that I was discovering something about him. Mm-hmm. When bad things happen, and as we all know, bad things happen all the time.
Some things work out, some things don't.
Some things work out, some things don't. This didn't.
Yeah.
We're looking for the cloven hoof.
Mm-hmm.
We want to think that there's some kind of satanic force that produced this evil, this malefaction. And often the ugly reality is that it may not be there.
Absolutely.
And that is as unsettling as almost anything.
Was that unsettling for you with Donald Rumsfeld? Do you feel like you, even though you can acknowledge this, you were also looking for that force, maybe, some of those answers with Rumsfeld? I know that you go into an interview maybe with on a blank slate and hope that you can form the movie based off of this interview that you're working through with them, but you have to have some notion of what you want going into it.
Of course I do.
Yeah.
I had said to him, you got to let me answer the question.
That's how interviews work.
Yeah. I had said to him that if we can explain to the American public in this set of interviews why we went to war in Iraq, we've rendered an important service, or even hell with the American public. Explain to me, by proxy, why we went to war in Iraq. But I can't tell you that I have a better answer coming out of this film than I did going into it. And that's not for want of trying. Mm-hmm. It's not for want of asking questions or doing research. What frightens me the most about this movie, and properly considered, this is a horror movie. Yeah, this is my horror movie.
Compare it to another horror movie. What horror movie is it like?
It's a horror movie about history from the inside out. Mm-hmm. No one else talks about Rumsfeld in this movie. It's just Rumsfeld talking about himself. Mm-hmm. And what we learn in that process is that there may be not much to learn. That in itself, I think, is deeply frightening.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because it does feel like he hasn't learned much himself over the years, and all that it feels like he's learned is how to deal with questions and how to evade and be somewhat slippery.
He's a master of evasion. Mm-hmm. I'll never be that good.
You're not bad at it right now, Errol.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
But I mean, I'm working some magic on me right now.
I'm never going to even get close to that.
There's a moment in the movie where Donald Rumsfeld is talking about Saddam Hussein, and he says, and I'm paraphrasing right now, so excuse me. He looks at the camera and he says, I was looking at Saddam Hussein, and what I saw was a man who was living the image that he thought of himself, but it was a lie. And then you sort of linger on Rumsfeld looking at the camera for a while after he said that. And to me, it seemed you were implying that feeling about Rumsfeld as well.
hard for him. Imagine you're doing this interview, and he says this to you, and you think, as I often do, you think, how ironic. Is he really talking about Saddam Hussein, or is he talking about himself? And then there's a second question, immediately after the first question. Does he realize that people could think this about what he's saying? And if he doesn't, how could he? How could he not realize this? Is this a complete absence of irony, self-reflection, self-awareness? Again, one of the strangest interviews I've ever done.